Hi everyone, McBeard here. Last batch of reveals for Iron Judgment. This includes everything from the Professor, which TriNet had a chance to reveal earlier on, all the way until the final cards revealed in the developer update that was released for 4.0. You can find that on the Gwent channel. I have the link in the description. But let's talk about these cards. But first, shout outs to all the community members that were able to reveal their cards this week. Shout outs to TriNet, the Gwent moderator team, Spiro ZA, Bopom, Gwent24.pl, and of course, Paul Berge and Jason Slama. Great video, great update. Always good to hear from you guys. Let's talk about these cards. The Professor, an 11 provision point, 6 strength human salamander unit. On deploy, put a bounty on an enemy unit and then damage it by 3. Tribute 3, ignore the target's armor. I think the Tribute 3 is more or less not necessary. You probably won't ever use it. So you kind of look at it like face value. Getting a 6 strength body is always fine, even for the bigger cards we've seen in Northern Realms. Having a really strong body to go along with the effect is just kind of like these supplementary points that are just, you know, very much balances out the whole thing. So if you believe that this effect is good, then you kind of have to say this card is pretty good. 11 is very expensive, no doubt. However, this can kill a unit at 3, finish off a unit at 3, and you don't have to have bounty on the board yet, meaning it's not as slow as placing bounty and then cleaning up on bounty. There's no purifying at all. It's a combo. It's kind of a combo within itself. It seems like it's priced accordingly, but I think that in general, it's probably going to be strong enough to at least test out. You're probably getting some big money plays. Probably, this seems like a hard card to evaluate because it seems obviously good. Like, it's not a bad card. I just don't know if it's going to see a lot of play. Indraga Queen is a new epic gold card for monsters. 7 provisions for a 5 strength, 1 armor insectoid. On deploy, consume an allied unit and gain its armor. I'm assuming also gain its armor. And then on Barricade, at the end of your turn, damage self by 1, and then spawn a drone on this row. The Erika's Queen changes have been confirmed. There is no longer going to be a passive situation that spawns drones. While this is a unique loss to the game, it actually opens up a lot of design opportunities. The way they explained it on the developer stream I thought was quite elegant. I personally didn't like row limit. I just felt like it was really kind of something annoying that I had to always keep in mind when playing my Swarm deck, which seems to make sense, right, if you're playing Swarm, but this seems like you have much more fun and powerful ways to Swarm. I think they wanted the mechanic to be less reliant on broken combos, like crazy Glusty Warp, renewing Glusty Warp, losing if your opponent steals your Glusty Warp, being row locked, having spies block you up, Vran Warrior Machine Gun, like just really just like outrageous interactions with cards that you just had to make work. And then on the value side, it just felt like, you know, you just got better value from so many cards. So I think that the direction Erika's Queen is going into, I am open to trying it out. I think this card's pretty good for that list too. Also, just put armor on something and then eat it. You don't have to look for a card that has like a lot of armor in its base. Like, just apply the armor and then eat it. See if there's an organic card that does that. I think we know them all. I don't know if there is. Surrender is an 8 provision neutral epic special card. Remove 2 armor from all units and damage them by 2. Another lacerate type card that cares about armor. Probably pretty strong. I think it will. I don't know if it's going to hose any strategy, so I don't know if we're going to have room for this tech. I think tech becomes a little expensive at 8. That's where you kind of want your really strong mid-range cards or always good cards that aren't like just straight up tall removal. So I feel like this card might just be too expensive, personally, but it's going to get the job done. There's going to be a lot of armor around for sure. Ardfane Light Cavalry, a Nilfgaard common here. Bronze card, 4 provisions for a 2 strength human soldier. On deploy, damage an enemy unit by 2. If the target has armor, damage it by 2 again. Pretty straightforward. Plays, you know, as a core card in a meta where you expect to see armor. You're going to maybe get that good bronze 4-point value. If you need a soldier, it is that. So things that care about soldiers generally are going to care about this. I don't know. I think Nilfgaard has really good 4s right now, so I don't know if this is going to make the cut. Just kind of feels like Cintran Knight levels of meh, and I've said it before. Vladimir von Everick, this is a pretty interesting card. A 7 strength neutral card, 5 strength Spectre and Bandit. On deploy, swap a unit's power with armor. So there's going to be all sorts of interactions here that we probably don't even really see. But if you have armor removal and you swap a low amount of armor with a high amount of health, and then you go right through that high amount of armor and kill something, that's probably how you want to use this. But then there's cards like the Draco Turtle, which gains armor when it boosts health when it loses armor. So how does that work? Where does the armor stripping happen? Where does the boost happen? What actually get switched over to the armor side. I kind of want to see that interaction, but I think that, you know, there's probably a ton of interactions to go through, but that's just two off the top of my head. And now we're on to the big spicy reveals we got in the Gwent developer video, which came out today. You can find the link in the description below. Here's Olgierd Immortal, a 10 provision, 7 strength, cursed human bandit. Olgierd's power cannot be changed. Very straightforward card. Very interesting, thought-provoking card. Can't take damage in any way, so Skellige likes that, just like kind of like the other Olgierd. Because he could always heal himself, you didn't mind ever damaging him. But this is just all built in. It's just all baked in. It's Olgierd's final form. This guy cannot change in power at any point. So think about your self wound. Think about anything that's supposed to sacrifice health, reduce things to 1. I mean, I guess when you play Cairnthier with this, do you play him at 7? I'm not really sure. It doesn't... I don't know. I don't know how that works, but I imagine it would just be 7. It never can be anything but 7 when this is on the board. That's what I'm understanding here. So pretty interesting, cool legendary. And now the counterpart, Iris Shade. 10 provisions for a 5 strength neutral cursed specter. On deploy, remove a unit's armor and then boost self by that amount. This is the Vivian Oriole of this expansion, although I think she sees a little bit more play here. While the cost is pretty high and the armor doesn't seem to be super tall, if the armor is ever super tall, you're always racing your opponent to this card. This card seems oppressive against armor. Hopefully it doesn't completely obliterate too many strategies, but we'll see. I don't know if it will, because I think you can only use it once. You have to win 2 rounds. There is that. So we'll have to see. A brand new Geralt card. This is Geralt Axii. 10 provisions for a 5 strength Witcher with 2 armor. On deploy, purify and reset a unit. And I loved it. On the developer cast, they said, it's like you were never here. Nothing, you didn't do anything here. I do like that aspect of Axii. You use Axii in conversations far more than you use it to make one dude fight another dude. So I do like the application of this card specifically. I think a lot of people expected it to end up like old Yorveth Meditation, or they thought that Geralt Axii would be a good implementation of that. But I think that this is quite cool. I think that there's going to be a lot of interesting uses for it. A reset in general is usually applicable in any meta. Bloody Baron, always a thought. Always a thought. I ran Spores in my monster deck, and it actually won me a game just yesterday, just for whatever, because I just think that reset is important. I think Peter Sargwenlov is a very good card. This card's probably going to be good. Geralt is going to be around again. Gascon, the Iron Falcon. This is very interesting. 10 provisions for a 4 strength human bandit with 3 armor. On deploy, create and play a bronze bandit card. So he plays as 2 bandits, 2 bodies, sometimes gets an answer for you if you need to destroy an artifact. If you need to destroy armor, those are bandit cards. So he could be create an answer, depending on how important that is for you. But in general, though, if you're something that wants to play, like Assimilate likes this card because it plays from outside of the deck. It plays 2 bodies, one of which can be an engine, and that's always great. This guy already starts out with armor, so if you care about that, that's also great. And because he's playing 2 bandits, and the bandits might seem pretty okay, they seem pretty resilient as well, that free company card might actually see play, being able to play 2 at once, especially if you replay him later. I don't know. He's really expensive, but I think he might just be fun enough to try it. Unlike the previous Gascon, which is just why bother, right? Just why bother with the 1 to 8 boost or whatever it is, 1 to 10 boost for 8 provisions. Why bother with this one? Hey, you actually could win a game. He's not going to cost you that much. He might end up being below average a lot of the time, but you know, they get that the Iron Falcon Knife Juggler seems like that would be a pretty fine and acceptable thing. The Bandit pool we're going to have to go through to see how good this card is, but I love it. The Leader of Salamandra, the Syndicate legendary card, the Defender card, although it might not look it. This is the 9 provision, 3 strength human Salamandra mage. As our Javed profits you 3 when you play him, and then on deploy spawns a Scarab on this row. If you want to pay a tribute of 3, which he gives you the money, and then he's like, you want it? Because if you don't want this money, I'll use this money to spawn a second Scarab for you. 2 for the price of 1. I love it. Syndicate flavor. But the Scarab is a very interesting card. It is a token, a 1 strength with 2 armor, insectoid with Defender, and Doomed because it's a token. On Death Wish, gain 2 coins. Wow, there's so much happening in this card. So on 1 mode, this guy comes down. He's a 3 that profits you for 3, and he also plays a Defender that your opponent still has to hit or do something to. It's an easier to kill defender because it can be pinged with a 3-ping or a 1-ping of any armor removal attack of any kind. But then you get money for it. So you get more money back in that situation. So I think that's pretty good. You get your money back. You kind of invest in him if you don't want to pay the profit. I think it's a really interesting card. And then you can play the 2 defenders, which is definitely a bigger pain in the ass in that case. You get 4 coins back on the deal, plus you get probably a 2-for-1 on this guy. So he's probably very good. I think that this card is probably very good, but doesn't seem OP, but seems like a really good defender and a very unique defender as well. I'm glad they all didn't end up samey, because we see the other one here as well. Figus. I just want to go right to the other defenders because we're talking about defenders. This card is also really interesting because we see this Rowdy Dwarf triptych. Much like the Nilfgaard situation, they're all very expensive cards, so you're committing to this strategy, very much so. So the dwarves you can pick and choose to support you. You can't take the whole suite of dwarves. You kind of have to move in with these guys running it. So it's almost like you're picking your generals and you have to build your deck with the provisions that are left. But that's okay. These cards are all pretty good. So we have Figus Merluzzo. This is, or Merluzzo, I suppose I could say. They called him an Italian dwarf on the stream. I thought that was really funny, especially after just shouting out Miranda for the Rowdy Dwarf token, who is an Italian community member. So shout outs to those guys for being intentionally funny. Hey, Merluzzo. 9 provisions for a 4 strength, 2 armor dwarf with defender, and on deploy spawns 2 rowdy dwarves on this row. Rowdy dwarves are 2 strength, 1 armor tokens with doomed. So you get 8 upfront value with Figus, and it's cool. In the artwork, he's the one who's getting overwhelmed. So he's like, go, let's go, guys. I got it. But he's not even the strongest defender, but he still buys you a turn as you set up your board, because rowdy dwarves, people care about rowdy dwarves like Zoltan the Warrior. This is a 12 provision, 6 strength dwarf warrior with 1 armor, just because on deploy, you spawn 2 rowdy dwarves on this row as well. So you're also getting 10 upfront value, plus any card that cares about the rowdy dwarves is activated. However, Zoltan is also a card that cares about rowdy dwarves, because you can boost all of those rowdy dwarves by 2 if you want. And then finally, when you go back to Monroe, he's an 11 provision point, 7 strength unit with 1 armor that transforms 2 of the rowdy dwarves into dwarf berserkers. You should be able to run these guys and run a decent dwarf package. I just ultimately don't know if the payoff is there when you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of really good combo pieces to make room for this 9, this 11, and this 12. They're very expensive cards to shore up. But I mean, so is Svalbard Totem, and, Olaf in some situations, people want to run that card. Like, Skellige has been doing this, but you also have, you have Precision Strike for scoia'tael. That's going to be, I believe that is Ethna's ability. She has a lot of provisions, so she can make this probably pretty strong with that effect. So you definitely want to use the high provision stuff, the high provision abilities with these. Morkvarg, Heart of Terror, that's HOT. We're calling him Hot Varg. 10 provisions for a 5 strength human pirate warrior with 1 armor. On deploy, damage an enemy unit by 1 and repeat until the target is actually damaged. That means if you have a defender that's been boosted up to 50 with 7 armor, he's just going to be like boom, boom, boom. He's going to keep going until that unit is down to its base value -1. Always creates Bloodthirst, is basically a reset unit. Great flavor. These are each a single instance of damage, so obviously great swords. And Dagger care about this, and any future cards they ever make that care about things getting hurt. I think that this is amazing. It goes through shields as well. It's awesome, right? Even Tourney Joust, right? It completely nullifies Tourney Joust. I think this card seems like he's just pretty good. 10 provisions is pretty high, but the reset is, you have to pay respect to the overall value of a reset, because I hope the effect is fast, because you're going to be resetting some really tall units with Hot Varg here. Philippa Blind Fury, an 11 provision point, 1 strength human mage. On deploy, what a throwback. On deploy, damage an enemy unit by 4, then damage a random enemy unit by 3, 2, and 1. So first of all, shout outs to this card being a true throwback to old beta Gwent, in that her base strength is even the same, and the damage kind of output of her card is pretty much the same as well. So it's interesting, this card is costed at 11, and in theory will do 11 points of damage if all of the pings line up. This effect bounces. This can remove 2 things pretty easily, and that's awesome. I think it's really awesome this card is back. I saw 11 and I thought, I don't know about that. I don't know if 11 is gonna be, I think 11's high. But I also think that this card is super important. I think that in a short round where 2 engines need to come down, or if you place right into Portal, even if you use Tactical Advantage, you probably can get a lot of extra value out of it. I think it's really good. I think it's really good, especially if you put something on your opponent's side of the board like Willem or something, just to link up that extra bit of damage to get that extra bounce. This card's going to be just a wild card. I cannot wait to play with this card. Philippa Blind Fury coming back. And finally, my friends, it's been a long, winding road, but we are here. It is Shani. She is the final reveal. 9 provisions for a 5-strength human with 2 armor and formation. Formation, once again, means she has Zeal on the front row, but boosted by 1 on the back row, and no Zeal. On order, give an allied unit vitality for 1 turn, and give it 1 armor. You have 1 charge. With this card, if inspired, give an allied unit vitality for 2 turns and 1 armor instead. So, for 9 provisions, I think you still have to give this unit something to make it worth it, which is either the inspiration for the extra vitality tick, or the charges. Give the charges to it manually. So you will need charge givers for this card to be good. As Hubert Rec has shown, it's not that bad to need that, because cards like Taller and the Aretuza Adepts are pretty damn good right now. So I expect this card to be pretty good. There's going to be a lot of vitality out there. Northern Realms just really likes to go for those long round statuses. Bleeding is in Northern Realms. Vitality is in Northern Realms as well. Skellige also getting a fair amount of bleeding, as it seems, with their reworks. I'm not really going to talk about the reworks. The main one really to talk about is the Avalok rework. His ability is gone. He no longer gives immunity to a target. Now he will be spawning Rain, Frost, or Fog with 4 strength and 10 provisions. So he's the Dagon dude. He's Dagon made flesh. So that's pretty cool. I think it's a really cool effect, and I'm probably going to use that card. But other cards were just kind of like, the Corsair is now the Skellige Neckarat. The Slave Driver is now the Nilfgaard Crown Splitter Thug, I think. It's okay. It's a little samey, and I also think that the Slave Driver... Oh, and the Master of Disguise is also kind of like Garcane for Locks. Like, these were unique abilities. In Master of Disguise's case, I get that you don't want a bronze to have an ability that strong, but I think that I hope that ability comes back in as a gold card for Nilfgaard. For Slave Driver, I really don't know why this didn't just stay a card, even though it wasn't seeing play. I just think it was a really interesting card. I felt like, a new card could just be added that does the effect that you need if you felt like Nilfgaard was missing a piece. But just because it's not being played doesn't mean that it's not cool. Nilfgaard has lots of interesting tricks, lots of interesting ways to counter stuff. I think that kind of really weird toolbox is in Nilfgaard's benefit. And the change to Corsair, this I understand. I think you're worried about just it being too strong, the ping being too large. That I get. So that's fine. If you just needed to give it a good ability and have it care about ships, that's fine. And this is a really strong card now. It's going to be a really strong card for Skellige. That's my thoughts on it mainly. Summoning Circle also is it's a dead card now. It's just a meme card, so that's gone from the meta. Portal appears to be the same though. So that remains to be a meta-defining card. Summoning Circle will no longer be that card. Think of it as Summoning Circle rotating out of standard. Just think of it like that. What would we do in a world without Summoning Circle? Portal's going to reign supreme? Maybe, maybe not. These Iron Judgment cards, or these Iron Justice cards that they made fun of me for on the YouTube video. Shoutouts, guys. The Iron Judgment cards, really, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but all I know is I'm going to be up early, internet permitting, streaming all the live long day. Enjoy the expansion, my friends. I was able to complete most of a podcast today, so I will be uploading what I have because my internet has just been really unstable with everybody. Even holding a call offline was difficult. So it is going to be what it is. My guests deserve better, and they will be on a future podcast, but I do want to post this as a podcast because I don't want to keep you guys hanging. I don't want to do one a month anymore. It's not what I want to do in October. Okay? Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments about these final spicy cards. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the video. A lot of you haven't. I don't hold it against you, but one day I will grow to resent you. And I'll see you tomorrow for some Iron Judgment goodies. We're going to be live on Twitch probably around 9 o'clock. Probably. We'll see. We'll see when everything's up and running, but we're going to be playing. Hopefully there's no crazy thing that needs to be hotfixed first. We're just going to get out there and have a good time. And I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks.